Bill Cosby just snapped a 2-day silence. And the first words out of his spokesperson's mouth welded two tragedies 18 years apart. Malcolm's drowning felt like the same call about Ennis. That raw admission instantly reframed the breaking news from a freak beach accident to a cruel echo of an old wound that never healed. Viewers everywhere felt the chill. Suddenly, it wasn't just about a beloved TV son lost in distant waters. It was also about a father reliving the gunshot that shattered him in 1997. The scene that sparked it all unfolded on a postcard-pretty stretch of Costa Rican sand last Sunday. Malcolm-Jamal Warner waded into what looked like calm turquoise water, with family members nearby, blissfully unaware of the rip current stalking beneath the surface. In minutes, screams replaced laughter. Lifeguards sprinted, locals formed a human chain, and frantic hands pulled Warner's body onto the shore. Paramedics fought to revive him, but the official cause was stark: asphyxiation by submersion. He was 54, a man relaunching both career and voice after decades of reinvention, gone in the time it takes for one wicked wave to break. Internet chaos followed like a second tide. Hoax blogs declared the death fake. Hashtags clashed between R.I.P. Theo and claims he was alive and well. Friends scrolled in disbelief until mainstream outlets confirmed the unthinkable. Phones buzzed, condolences poured, and then the spotlight swung to the one man who'd shared the screen and the spotlight for 8 formative seasons of America's favorite sitcom. When Cosby finally spoke, he did more than mourn. He ripped open an old scar. He described how Warner's last call to him, after a Minnesota jazz concert 3 months ago, was full of ideas about changing humanity through art. He talked about their frequent late-night chats, about father figure laughter that survived courtroom headlines and public backlash. And then he drew the chilling line back to Ennis Cosby, his only son, ambushed by a robber while changing a tire on a Los Angeles freeway ramp. The comparison felt almost too heavy, yet painfully accurate. 2 young men pulled from life without warning, leaving the same hollow ring in a father's chest. To understand the weight behind those words, you need to remember what Warner meant to Cosby, and to the audience who watched him grow up on screen. After The Cosby Show fade out, Warner could have coasted on nostalgia, but he chased reinvention instead. He starred in Malcolm and Eddie, surprised critics as a brooding doctor on The Resident, and snatched a Grammy in 2015 for his bass-rich reading of Jesus' Children. Just last year, he launched the podcast Not All Hood, dissecting untold Black stories, with the same smooth cadence that once delivered punchlines in the Huxtable living room. Hollywood might recycle everything, yet Warner kept writing new chapters. None of that erased the complicated shadow cast by Cosby's assault allegations. In a 2023 interview, Warner called the scandal layered and painful, refusing to condemn the man who mentored him, but also refusing to excuse the accusations. That tightrope walk cost him some fans. It won him respect from others who saw nuance instead of blind loyalty. Behind closed doors, however, their bond endured. They shared advice, memories, even quiet jokes about how legacy can flip overnight. And then, with one riptide, the next phone call became impossible. Cosby's statement did more than honor a friend. It reopened America's memory of Ennis's murder. The nation once watched an unbreakable television dad crumble on live news, retreating from cameras for months. Now, decades later, Cosby stands in the same emotional crossroads, battling civil suits while mourning a man the world still calls his TV son. Public reaction splits down familiar lines: sympathy for a father figure, skepticism from critics who long moved on. But grief doesn't care which side you choose. It simply digs in. Meanwhile, questions swirl about Warner's final swim. Local officials warn that Limon's rip currents can turn glassy shallows into lethal undertows in seconds. Fans debate whether safety signs were visible, whether a lifeguard tower sat empty, whether the vacation spot will tighten regulations. Yet no regulation can rewind the shoreline clock. The only certainty is that a rising creative voice has been muted, and a frail 88-year-old comedian hears history repeating like a cruel joke. Imagine Cosby in the quiet of his Pennsylvania estate replaying that last conversation. Warner's excitement about directing, his plans to blend activism with art, his promise to visit soon. Now silence fills the promised space. News trucks gather outside gated drives. Critics draft think pieces about guilt by association. Supporters flood social feeds with clip montages of Theo and Cliff Huxtable, hugging it out after sitcom scrapes. In every frame, a younger Cosby laughs, fully unaware of how time will bend their lives into endless courtroom scrolls and grim headlines. Tragedy rarely travels alone. It drags along memory, controversy, and the nagging ache of what if. Warner's drowning and Ennis's murder are separated by nearly 3 decades and 1,000 miles. But to Cosby, they now merge into one unbearable echo. Fame, talent, reinvention, none of it could outswim a sudden rip current or outrun a robber's bullet. And that sobering truth lingers long after the news cycle churns to something new. So the next time a headline looks like clickbait, pause before brushing it off. Sometimes the unbelievable really happens twice. And sometimes an ocean wave can carry away more than a single life. It can tug at every unresolved tear trailing behind it. In Bill Cosby's world, the cost of one phone call unanswered just doubled. And for the rest of us, the story is a brutal reminder that tomorrow's reunion is never guaranteed. No matter how many times a beloved sitcom reruns on late-night TV,